Working on the check.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, there, great. Let's start with folks on the screen. Just tell us who you are and what your role is here, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm Adrian Fritz. I am a commissioner on this HRC.
Thank you.
I'm Maria Paula Rizzo. I'm also a commissioner of this HRC.
And I'm Morgan Drake, assistant planner with Benton County.
Great, thank you. Shannon.
Shannon Bush, program coordinator and HRC liaison. Thank you.
I'm Paul Tapanin with David Evans and Associates. I'm a consultant to Laurel at Benton County.
I'm Laurel Byer, and I'm the county engineer for Benton County.
Bob Honifer, I'm commissioner.
Autumn Peterson, commissioner and chair.
And I'm Bruce Anderson. I am also a commissioner.
And Jay is absent. But we will go ahead and move to do the minutes review. Does anyone have any changes or amendments to the minutes from last month?
Yeah. So somewhere on there is supposed to be my name. Oh, it's items from staff. Commissioner Hoffner, I think, is supposed to be Honifer.
Okay.
And I reported 13 hours, actually, not 1 hour.
Oh, for your,
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Bob.
10 hours, you said?
13.
Or 13.
I just read that.
Okay. Any other amendments?
I don't remember all the discussion about the ongoing specter stuff, but maybe I was in the restroom or something.
You had actually asked a question about its effectiveness.
Yeah, which
It was-
you weren't able to answer at the time. And what
That's
I
correct.
remember from the discussion was Autumn had said, you know, maybe we should consider a line item for the new CLG.
Mhm.
And I raised that in 2023, we had approved a test package for education that we haven't seen yet.
Mhm.
So I don't remember the rest of that discussion.
When we get to it in today's agenda, I could update you on the education aspect.
Yeah, we do have,
Because I don't think there was much else discussed.
yeah, we can put that under the grant budget conversation. After
But
we
in terms of the minutes, I don't remember any of that discussion last time.
Are you talking about this one right here?
Yeah.
So this is, just so you know how we come up with this, it's all from the transcription. So it kind of just gets, all the transcription, what was spoken about gets consolidated. So we talked about it to some extent, but if you're more comfortable with revising it, just let me know how you think
Yeah,
it would
if
be.
people are comfortable that it was said, then it was said.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have any decisions made or votes or anything, so we were just chatting basically
Okay.
about some of these things. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve? Okay, motion is made by Bob Honifer with the amendments of correcting his name and adjusting the 13 hours for the updated minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Fine.
Did we get a second?
I will second.
Second, sorry. All opposed? We caught the yays earlier, so minutes are approved. And we're gonna go ahead and go right to Hayden Road Covered Bridge Project with Laurel Byer.
All right. Thank you so much for entertaining our presentation. So this is a project that we've been working on. Haven Covered Bridge is a historic registered, or whatever, on the National Register of Historic Places. And so it has been weight limited, obviously, length and height and width restricted for a while, but weight limited to 12 tons. by the state. They go through and they do inventories of all our bridges to see, what their current condition is. And the main thing here is one of the vents is just rotten away. And so this means that we can't get buses over, trash can't go over, obviously log trucks can't go over, there's right now. And so we got grant funding through the state to construct a new bridge. And initially, what we had proposed was leaving the covered bridge in place. And then going to it would be to the east, but to the left in the picture. And going around the bridge and then coming over on the other side and coming back out to the road.
That's the most common way people are dealing with that.
Right, yes. And so why I brought Paul along is that there are several unique issues here that we didn't realize as we were first scoping out the project. A lot of environmental concerns. When we looked at going to the east, what you see as a normal ditch on the side of the road actually is not. So I don't know if you want to interject a little.
Sure. So when we start a project, we always start, we do a topographical survey, we do environmental studies. And one of the very first things we did was we wanted to meet with the Oregon Fish and Wildlife out to understand our limitations. Not only just the Alsea River, which is underneath the covered bridge, but it turns out that along the side of the road, and depends on what map you look at and who you ask, which side of the road you're on, but there's a creek, a defined creek, or at least a creek that is salmon habitat, which was unknown. And so if we move the road to go around the bridge, what we have to do is we have to make the this creek
It has to be.
it has to be up to the standards where the fish can navigate it.
Right.
Right now, it's not, although it's still classified as salmon habitat. So if we move the road, we have to do, there's a bunch of work that has to be done to make the stream fish passable.
Like not, yeah. Any crossing of that stream would have to be fish friendly, so you're gonna have a huge culvert that would have to be constructed. As well as we would have to refill that creek that goes down to the Alsea because it's too steep to actually meet
Yeah,
the requirement.
you can't quite.
It's hard to tell, no.
The
Yeah.
river's quite a ways down
Yeah.
under the bridge.
Yeah.
So the creek is way up high. Anyway, there's a lot of work to be done.
Right.
Um,
And so,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
not just building a new bridge, you're.
right.
and, you know, being engineers, we like to look at all the different options. And so we looked at, well, can we move the creek to the other side? Can we do this? Can we do that? And we did come up with some alternatives, but we went out in the field and actually met with property owners. They live across the highway. However, this property has been in their family for 70 years. I mean, they've been out in the area for over 100 years. So the family's been out there for quite some time. But I don't know if you can tell, they've planted trees that are like pretty large, on the side. Yeah, I don't know if you can kind of scroll to the sides, and so like if we were gonna do anything, not only are we would purchase the property, first of all, we do have it appraised and we give them damages, but we'd be buying all those trees. Potentially.
And then some.
Purchasing more, yeah. And the other thing too is they were very clear that they didn't care. They would not be dealing with this, period. So that would lead us into looking at eminent domain, raising costs of the project.
Meaning they said no, like,
Right.
we're not selling.
They
it.
said they're not, yeah.
They're not interested at all. It's not anyways, I guess I won't get into all the details of what was said in the site, but they were not very happy to deal with us.
Yeah.
So then we thought, well, what else can we do? And I thought of, could we decommission the bridge, take it apart, salvage it though, because, you know, this is one of 3 covered bridges in the county. And like I mentioned earlier, I am very much into history. And so I want to save the bridge. Is there a spot that we could move it to, that could still have, you know, good character and preserve a covered bridge. And there are actually a couple of spots on county parks property that we're looking at. Potentially, there's two. Clemens Park actually needs a new pedestrian bridge within the park. And granted, I haven't vetted, I haven't gone out there and seen where could the bridge fit. That would be like another next
Yeah.
step to this. And then the county also just acquired the McVee campground, through donation. And so that's by the Alcide Falls, recreational area. And so there's potential for a good place for it to have a home. And so really, now, obviously, I'm not here for any decision from the Historic Resource Commission. Is more, I wanted to let you know about this project and just kind of get preliminary feedback before I spend a lot of time and money putting together applications and going in that direction. So, and I should mention, we also sat down with SHPO. So we have talked with the State Historic Preservation Office, and of course, he was non-committal. He's like, well, it's not a no, but you got a lot of work to get there. So I understand that part.
Yeah, because that is on the register, right?
Yes.
When you say the bridge, are you talking just the covered part? What would we be trying to salvage?
So we would salvage probably any decking that was still usable. But if it's not, then it would mostly be, the guardrails and then the house, the barn, basically. And then we'd have to rebuild the bridge somewhere else. But still try to maintain that integrity and have the same sort of, the wood plank. I love that part going through the bridge.
Yeah.
So.
Online, Maria Paulo has a question.
So actually it's very interesting because I just finished working on a paper that describes the construction and relocation of cultural heritage artifacts. So it is an option, and it's not one of the most complicated cases that could take advantage of this approach, because there have been entire temples that have been removed in another location. So rather than losing it, this is definitely a potential approach. It's feasible. It's technically feasible. Of course, it requires some analysis and careful inventory of pieces, understanding the connection and system, how to safely disconnect without damaging the parts. Also understand what's the best approach for the relocation, disassembling pieces rather than or bigger parts. But I just wanted to say that it's a practice that is used in some cases is the only option when the alternative is losing the artifact completely. So, and if you at some point make this decision, I would be happy to provide some insights and help as much as I in my capacity.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and the county has actually done this with one of our other covered bridges, but it was delisted at the time, so it was probably easier to do. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so the context is also part of the authenticity and the cultural value. So by decontextualizing it, somehow you're losing part of the original value. But if this means like reusing in a place that where there may be even more, there can be more users, more access to the public, I don't know, then this can counterbalance. The deconstruction and relocation may damage pieces, so it should be done in a very accurate way. But if it has been done in the past, then there is expertise to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that creek was family owned, the side creek you were talking about with the private landowners in the first
So it's hard to know the history of the creek because it looks like it's been man-made, forced to go under the road. Because when you look at the aerials and the topography, it looks like it would have gone through the field versus along the road. But now it's actually within the right of way that's being counted.
So you didn't deal with that long. I can't see that you did with the private landowners, like, because they could have had tax deferments for salmon on that area of their own and all kinds of things. So, yeah.
Just for notes purposes, Laurel, I think you mentioned 3 county parks options. I got Clemens, McBee, was there a third?
No, sorry, there's just two.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, of course, it's great to leave it in place, but if it's obvious that it can't be, I would say the next step, definitely, can we save it, preserve it, and put it somewhere else in a park? Obviously do commission driving logging trucks over it, but
Right.
really, making your walking bridge. I mean, we have that in many parts of the county already. And so I've seen a lot of covered bridges dealt with in this way. Yes, it's sad we lose the context, but perhaps where it gets newly installed, we can tell that story, have a nice plaque, add it to our driving booklet.
Right, yeah.
Or,
Right.
and, kind of address it,
Okay.
later on.
Any other
How do you feel about it, Bob?
comments? The next thing that I do want to do is I'm gonna go out and talk to the people of LC
Yeah.
because that is gonna be a huge, I don't know. I would think it'd be a hurdle anyways, if anybody goes out there and be like, oh, it's our bridge.
Yeah, that is a thing. It's gonna be hard to let go. And I mean, if we can keep it as close to the community and their community as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
And both Clemens and, I mean,
McBee's.
yeah, McBee, they're still close by there for sure.
Yeah.
LC.
Yeah, I would say they would have more of an issue
Yeah.
than we would. Adrian, did you have anything to say?
I'd rather see it saved and relocated than demolished or destroyed. I'm sort of not interested in that happening too much more.
So we're all agreed.
Okay, great. Well,
If it
thank
must
you.
be moved,
Yeah.
let's just move it.
I appreciate your time.
And we do have, several of us know how to do that, kind of been around that stuff. If you, I don't know, want help.
That's great. No, I really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be reaching out then.
Send you to the professor,
Yeah.
send you to the papers, the academics. Very knowledgeable. Actually, maybe we could scan it. Maybe this might be something we could use the scanning technology for. Get it all documented. We might not have the money to develop it later, but this might be a great opportunity to capture that, digitally.
Where it goes.
In the point cloud.
3D scanner in
Mhm.
place that you,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Basically laser scan of the
Right.
structure, because it gets every part in piece. And then
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time and money to develop that into architectural drawings, but then you have a fully accurate set. So if it does burn or is gone, it can be reconstructed in its entirety. That might be, I would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It costs money to do that, but, perhaps we can get some students out there training on the new tech and, get them working on it. That's what we keep trying.
is that a tool through the university, through Oregon State?
I think their department has that
Okay.
technology now.
Oh, interesting.
But it's definitely out in the world.
Yeah.
I did my property with it
Yeah.
and it's pretty easy to work with. They're just expensive gadgets,
Right.
30, 40K.
Yeah, Shannon asked me about the Van Buren Bridge, the scan for that, and I'm working with ODOT trying to see if we can get a copy of that. So.
Yeah, so, Maria Paulo wanted to work with that and try to work with her students to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
turn this into educational. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit.
Well, it's not me actually. I do not do virtual reality, but so my husband is an expert and he has a class. I think it's in spring that develop virtual reality experiences. So they need to have a model and then they can create like guided to like having a model and content, like what type of experience do we want to create? Is just making examples is walking through the bridge and being able to see it in a different historical context, like when there were other type of vehicles, or to see the landscape from the bridge in a different, like in different time period, or more technical, like seeing all the little details of the steel structure, and maybe see how this can be put together. I mean, really depends on the story that we want to tell, the experience that we may be interested in. And of course, there must be material available so that this type of experience can be created by the students in 10 weeks, because they have to do it during the term. So we have about 5 weeks to figure out and to ask Raffaele if he just provide Raffaele with data and a description before the term. So I would say, end of these terms and better.
Make this, so have those two get connected, your
Maybe,
ODOT
if I don't-
contract, so,
Especially if I don't hear back from her,
okay.
then yeah, I will try to get them in contact with each other.
So Maria Paula, I'll try to remember to connect you and Laurel via email, unless actually you'll be able to see her, Maria Paula,
Oh, yeah,
email on today's.
an invite, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess Laurel can reach right out to you and kind of make that connection with the ODOT person.
Okay.
Yeah, to try to hopefully get that moving for you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. We'll be back. Yes.
Okay. All right, certified local government grant budget. Looks like we're not eligible to apply until February 2026. So that's
Quick and easy.
quick and easy. We don't have to make a plan for a budget item. Bad news is we don't have a budget item. So, comments from,
How much money do we have?
Left right now, that's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head.
Would that be tied into May's?
Yep, it's all pre-allocated through June of this year, so
Okay.
we are funded through June, but do you remember I was saying last time, I remember Inga telling me that there was like a time period through which we essentially just don't have funding. It's the July through December, I
okay,
think, time period. And then we're eligible to apply again for the next year. So it's kind of it's a very unique and wonky schedule that.
but we have enough money for the
Yep.
programming
Yep.
for it. Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's all
But how
committed.
did we handle in the past? The banquets or the things like that at the end of the year where you're doing, if you didn't have any money, maybe.
Well, we did the banquets at the Historic Preservation Month. So the end of that month, at the end of the
Okay, so roll it in.
event. Yeah, so
And then we're just broke for 6 months.
yeah,
Okay.
but we weren't spending money.
Kind of strange, 'cause I don't know, I've never seen that kind of setup before.
Yeah, which is challenging when we're trying to stretch Historic Preservation Month throughout
Yeah.
the whole year. That might be a challenge, but this is something we can perhaps rely on community members and volunteers to, do a class here or do a presentation and a tour there, to try to keep the momentum going throughout the year without the county having to spend money on it.
Yeah, there's two things I'll mention. Right, and so just so that we're all on the same page, of course, the challenge is we have to spend that money before, because we can't get reimbursed for it. I know that Petra is working with our finance team right now in developing our budget ask for the next year, and I know that it includes some additional amount of funding. I don't know how much exactly. Of course, we don't know if it will be approved. That's
Okay.
who knows. but we are trying to get a little bit more funding in in kind of like a true historic resources program budget that
Mhm.
could potentially help a little bit with having like another 1 or 2 or 3, who knows, events be further parsed out throughout the year. Yeah, so that we don't have to have them so much happening in such a short period of time. So, as far as that schedule goes, the budget, sort of packages are due at the end of this week. So we're in like the last couple days right now. And then it's usually a couple months that the budget committee is reviewing that, having meetings, asking questions. Petra will go to the board and do a presentation about our budget request. They'll kind of do the formalized asking of questions, and I want to say it's about, I don't know, sometime in May, June, maybe early June, that the announcement is made. Don't quote me on that, but that's kind of my recollection.
June-ish.
Yeah. And then for July 1st kind of
Okay.
start. So we might get lucky and have some
Yeah.
additional county funding
Well,
to help with that.
It's pertinent that this budget conversation is happening now, and we know that you guys have spent money already on the driving tour booklet. Because it's a long way from being done.
Yeah.
Jay and Adrian and I met for a couple of hours the first week of
Mhm.
January. Sorry, forgot where we are already. So I think it was the 8th or 9th, just for the sake of minutes. We met to basically just go through page by page, line by line. And we caught a lot of errors, a lot of issues. Things were not flowing in the correct place. So you get to this house, but it was back here. There were a bunch of places that Bob had found that you couldn't even see from the road. So why are we even putting that on there? There were a lot of entries that just had no information whatsoever. It was just like old house, you know? So maybe, so as we started reading each of the things and following them on the map, we were just seeing there was a lot of work that needed to be done.
Mhm.
And then I got the source files from the designer, and he has 0 bibliography. There's no sources that he's working from. He was just working from, I guess, the old driving booklet that Carol had made. So, because we were trying to fact check and, do our due diligence.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, so, and I think, we have all this stuff in the county databases. It's probably even online now, so we can kind of cross-reference some of this, but it's just gonna take a long time.
Mhm.
And I think if we, divvied up, like each person took 10 entries and read through it, checked a few sources, found a source, that we could document, I don't think it would take us that long. So I would propose that we vote to increase the budget a bit I'm not sure what it's gonna take for him to finish it, but we want the main changes we wanted to add. There was a lot of text changes, some deletions and then some additions, and then adding historical photos instead of most of the photos were, kind of new.
Mhm.
We wanted to add like smaller icons of the structures that we had resources for. So what the house used to look like, because it's obvious what it looks like now because you're driving by. So it would be nice to have it look and feel more historical. I mean, even, the Benton County History one, like I love that this one is color. But this one is even, is historic. It feels historic. All the photos are historic in there. So, kind of, if this is a history tour, let's kind of keep it to that feel. So I think we can reference what we've already done. But the big story is it needs a lot of work. I mean, it's not a ton, but there's just edits, and we created a Google Drive folder just for our working purposes to, so we can each work on it since we can't meet all as a group. We can at least kind of divide and conquer and see what the sources are, and perhaps we can kind of divide and conquer that way. Like, all right, you take this page through this page, and then let's just do a little homework and just check it, and then do a drive and double check, make sure it's there. I think we just need more time, and I think he's going to need more time also to enact those changes. So we have a document that we're able to edit now. We're doing our working in a Google sheet. So we can see a change. So we're not passing a Word document back and forth and track changes, which is just exhausting to figure out
Yeah.
who's doing what and then cleaning it up. So we can get him the text, all the text that he wants, finalized. So if everyone's okay with, kicking in a little bit on some of the research and writing, that would be really helpful. But I don't know how much more to add on the budget item, but I would check with him
Mhm.
and see, hey, we do want to add more photos. We want to remove and add text, add a bibliography, which he had left room for, but doesn't have anything in.
Is there a date we want completion by? Was there a
Yeah,
projected
what's the date? you
Yeah.
guys want it done?
I was gonna say, so that's gonna be the most critical thing here. So working backwards, we have, like, I would say the drop dead deadline for this, where everything has to be complete in order for people to get paid, is gonna be the June 30th. And it's got to be well before June 30th, because it has to go through finance. There's a whole series of
Right.
processes that has to happen. So my kind of suggestion for you as like a working group on the
Mhm.
text and getting things finalized is to have the text and imagery, whatever it is that you want included, given to Eric in a final format by, like, I would say March, maybe end of March, to give him April and May to
Right.
work on it. Yeah, so he's gonna have, I would say, it almost sounds like it's painful for me to say this out loud, but it's almost like a complete overhaul. It's almost like a new project. So,
Not completely. I mean, just for example, like the first page, it's talking about establishing Benton County, and then it goes into the native people of the Willamette Valley.
Mhm.
And then there's nothing in here about anything native people anywhere. There's not, the first step could be starting at the confluence and having a photo of the confluence. And
yeah,
so
some
it just
context of
was
it.
like it's great to talk about the native people here, but then it just went to, white people's houses land. So it
Yeah.
was, I don't know, the transition into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think it makes sense. I think it's just for him, what it means for his work purposes, it's gonna be like
Yeah.
a pretty big overhaul of the existing, like, design format. So, which is what it is.
I think that the format that he has is fine. We just have to move them around a little bit,
Mhm.
change some of the numbers, add some little thumbnails. I mean, the bulk of the text is good. We just have little edits here and there. And then there's some that we just want to delete totally. And then
Okay.
there's some that we want to add.
Add in, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Okay. Yeah, and I think it would probably be difficult for him to give us a budget estimate, like a
Yeah.
cost estimate, until we have probably final or nearly final text
mhm,
for him to assess, because, the original project was, Inga gave him the full text document, said, here's the final text, and here's the images, and, go forth and prosper. So he made that, and then the kind of secondary chunk of funding that we agreed to was based on a series of, like, minor text edits. So I think, and that was, I think we talked about 600 to 800 for, like, kind of minor text edits, but thinking it was gonna be, just not changing, like, content, but just, minor text edits.
like you misspelled.
Exactly, yeah, typos and, maybe a couple little changes here and there, but nothing.
I mean, there are some graphical things too, like on the, actual maps. So, blowing up a little section of, okay, where's the starting here, but get that into the little map of Philomath, like, okay, you're in Philomath, these are where these are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can say no to that, but,
So 60
Well,
days.
It's gonna take some work for him to do all of these changes, especially in the tool that he's using. So really, it behooves us to get all this together before March, so we can go through it one more time and
Mhm.
approve all the content and get that to him. Because really, he hasn't added any of as you said, the back matter is not there.
Yeah,
Adding those thumbnails is going to change how the layout works, so that's going to flow the text differently, all of that stuff. And he's probably got other projects that he's working around on top of it. So
So 30 days.
And we need these changes because there's not a historical context that makes sense for this. It's going to be around for how many years before we change it again?
Yeah,
Now's the
that's the
time.
thing. Now's the time.
Yeah.
So are you going to assign the group that we work on?
How would you like it to be?
Well, we got
organized?
30 days and how many commissioners that are willing to help edit here? You know, I don't know. I mean, what's our count? Would Jay help? Would
Yeah, Jay was
would
helping.
Maripola help? Would Adrian help? Would
Yeah, Adrian's
everybody,
been working on it.
is everybody able to
And my
take?
husband's volunteered to
these?
help as well, so we can use volunteers on this as well.
It's just some source assigning
Yeah.
and done. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I mean, maybe we just
So, yeah, 30 days and
divide it out into,
divide it out.
like, okay, you get page 1 through 5. I don't know.
That's fine.
I unfortunately I cannot volunteer because I will be traveling in the next month. So
That's okay. You have your task ahead of you with the bridge thing, so we can do this.
Okay.
Okay, so I did share the files with you all, the Google Drive. So everything that I have
Right.
related to this in a PDF and
Yeah.
Word, you have access to. So that's where we can work from.
Just give us the pages that you want to.
Okay. Okay, I'll have to go through and count and divide.
So when it comes to historical photos, if we find a reference,
Mhm.
who wanted to steal a photograph, what do we have to do to make that legal?
Just catch the source. So this was another issue, none of his photos had sources, at all. So, that would be nice, like, who took this photo or have it somewhere that, have things cited.
Mhm.
Who took the photo, Oak Creek Schoolhouse
Mhm.
by Bob Honifer in 2007, so just keep the source material, just wherever you got it. And then in the Google Drive doc, there is a folder for photos. Just have in the name of the photo, what it is. So just, Soap Creek Schoolhouse, 1904. As much information as you can put in the actual file name, it'll be easier to find that way. Because the numbers are gonna be different because we're taking stuff out and moving things a little bit. So,
one thing I would mention too, just for everyone's awareness, I'm pretty sure, I can ask Eric to double check, but I'm pretty sure Inga already shared with him like the library of the county's photos. He just chose not to use them, right?
okay, so maybe he can do some of that work.
Yeah, so I think
Okay.
like before you all put a lot of time and effort into trying to go search for photos, we should ask him
Okay,
if he already has a decent library. I think he just might need help deciding which one to use where and,
okay.
um,
So before we do the photos, yeah, I will reach out to him in the morning and just say, hey, we had a meeting, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, perfect.
What are your photos that you have? We're gonna work on the text and have it to you by March.
I can pull up the
End
calendar
of
here.
March.
You're gonna follow up on the email, let us know which page you want.
Yeah. I mean, if there's something that you see that you just so want to do because you're interested in it, then
Well, I can do the ones that I already commented on.
great, yeah.
Okay.
And there were several, so this whole document's in there. There were several entries that just had no information whatsoever. So either we find information to put there or we just take it out altogether. So like on page 30, there's number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 have zero information about them. It's just the address, house to the south, house to the north, house on the left, house on the right, with no information of what they are or context.
Mhm.
So if I would say we had a great, oh yeah, go ahead, Adrian.
I have a question. So I'm looking at the files right now. Are we to work just on the files from Eric? Because it's 4 different files or,
Yeah, those were his files those were his source files. So I created, I tried to get the source files from him because I tried to convert the PDF into a Google Sheets and it just it just messed it all up. So I haven't created a new sheet yet of text. So there'll be there's a new document that started in there. And I can copy you, Shannon, just so you have access to those folders. There's a blank sheet, Google Sheets page that's for us to put the text and edit it.
A sheet or a doc? Because I don't see any sheets.
A Google Doc.
Okay. Is that the driving tour master text?
Yes,
Which one? The master text?
the master text. And it
Okay.
needs to be, I left a little note at the top saying it's formatted wrong and, I need to work on it a little bit to clean it up. But we
Okay,
can just.
so this is the document we will be working on, all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
So we will put all of our content in there and then we'll all review that content and then we'll submit it to him. I'll probably convert it back into Word or however he wants it. So the folder that says files from Eric, the designer, those were just all that he sent me. So this is what he was working from. There's a photo folder, which we may not need. And then there's, I have the old Benton County driving information that was from our website, from the county's website, just as context. The driving tour master text, that's the one that we're gonna work on. The one that says road tour edits, those were the ones we started to do in the back and forth with the track changes, and it just got messy. So that's just there for context and to work from, but yeah, let's just create one on the master text, so.
Okay, one other question, because
Yeah.
you've got your physical copy all marked up. Are you going to scan that and put it in here for reference?
I don't think anyone
that-
will be able to read it. What's the best way
Okay.
of, because you made notes too, and Jay made notes too.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out the best way with the least amount of work to share that. I don't know.
Probably if you, Jay, and I do like commenting.
Right, because we should update the stuff that we already made notes on, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that we could update it. And if it's not something that we're comfortable with yet, we can just add a comment. You highlight the body of text that it affects and then just make a comment. And then
Okay.
other people can pipe in and say, whatever. Because like Bob, he's got certain things that he enjoys working with, so he's going to know more than I'll know.
Yeah. So what we can do is there's a lot of stuff we didn't mark up that we can assign you guys to, hey, look at these, double check them. And then make the edits and add them in.
Those.
Okay. How's that sound?
Thank you.
I'll write up a little chat to Jay since he's not here tonight. And we will try to make a plan to do X amount per week or we won't get it done. I'm telling myself that because I'm super busy right now. So yeah, if we can break it into little chunks, I think we'll be able to get there.
And just for one clarification, Autumn, it sounds like you're gonna touch base with Eric.
Yeah,
about kind of game plan.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna email him in the morning.
Okay. And just our general.
Yeah, I
Game
just
plan.
update him. Yeah, I told him I would.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I'll need to vote on it. Okay.
It's your business.
Okay.
Yeah, we
All
can
right.
do it however we want. Makes sense.
All right. For Preservation Month programming.
Just one other thing
Yeah,
on the
sorry.
CLG budget. Could you next month bring the budget items versus actual expenditures? So we know where we're at.
I can. Yes, happy to do it. It's not gonna look like a typical budget, just to give you a heads up. It's what I showed you last time. I'll show you again just so you kind of know what it is. One moment here. So this is essentially the document that was submitted for the CLG grant request. To my knowledge, this is the only thing I've that I've found. So it's kind of like a note sheet, basically.
So is the far right that I can't see the actual expenditures? Or-
Yeah, I can zoom, well, here we go. So I think what Inga does is just kind of, so she'll take a note and say like, I moved some of this money that was allocated for this thing over to this other thing. So it's more like a note sheet versus like an Excel calculations, like where you would see. Yeah, so this is essentially a budget.
But we have to know what we've got left to spend. So
That's in Munis, which is a county like software tool, which I might have access to. I'm not sure.
well, however you.
Is that the question?
However,
Is
have
what do we have
you
left?
work the magic, yeah.
Okay.
That would be great.
What do we have left is the question. Okay.
What we have to spend, before I guess we come up with all the ideas.
I don't see the commissioner's salaries.
What?
Did we forget that again?
Get pizza. Yeah, so, I mean, maybe you want to drive this conversation, the month programming, because it's hard to plan. If we don't know what we can spend and where we want to spend it.
I think starting out, so I have a document here, pass this to each of you and I'll pull it up on the screen too for those online. Thank you. I basically just printed your kind of itinerary from last year. So it gives us a starting point for discussion in terms of like, oh yeah, let's be sure to keep this or scrap this year, that kind of thing.
What
One
did we
second.
spend on historic month last year?
I think that is the biggest expense, I'm sure. Let's see. So,
Or as we like to call it, quarterly period throughout the month that
Yeah.
leads into other months of the historic year.
Historical preservation, no. 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 Here we go, blue one, okay. So it looks like 2,000 was, 1,000 for 2024 and 1,000 for 2025. That also gets supplemented by the city of Corvallis though, so I think, it's kind of like a joint effort and I assume a joint budget. I can't confirm that with certainty, but then it looks like we spent actual costs in 2024 was 411.68, so Inga moved 588 into Fort Hoskins. So I don't know, we could say $500 for,
That's how much we spent. So we didn't spend the full
we
$1,000.
didn't spend the full 1,000.
Okay.
And that's kind of like I was mentioning last time at the meeting when we talked about asking for more money. It's just kind of the trend that I've seen in all of these is that we tend to not spend the full ask. We're often like moving leftover money into some other purpose. So, just being kind of cognizant of what we're actually using, and it might be tough to ask for more if we're
But
not
we could
using it.
have 1,000.
Yeah, we have 1,000 is allocated.
Okay.
Yep. So interestingly, as I see that down, I also don't know offhand what we actually spent for Fort Hoskins and so like this, for example. Sorry, Fort Hoskins, what did we put here? Okay, I don't have an expense, but it's possible, so 38,450.45 was requested. What did we actually spend? And yeah, so. Just minutes or
And then if we were gonna do that again.
A little bit of
So
work to
may
do.
I?
Yeah.
I've been reached out by a couple of organization within the county for if you remember at some point asked for ideas for projects for my students. And I will teach the class that I teach every other year in spring. And if there is an opportunity to do any, diagnostic study on existing structure, and this is not in Corvallis specifically, we may need some money for transportation. like, motor pool, and stuff like that. If this could be, and also some consumable, if this is something that we can include in the budget, will not harm us, because otherwise we have to find this money somewhere else, and it's not easy.
Yeah. So would it be helpful to go through this list and just see maybe what we could redo? Like, I know Gemma would do another tour because she does all these great tours.
I think it's entirely up to you all, like how, what, kind of, I just printed this as food for thought in terms of like, this is what last year looked like, so I think thinking about what,
Last year,
yep, that
Yeah,
was
I
last
was
year.
like, how did we plan this?
No,
It's already all taken care
So I
of.
guess we need to come up with a theme.
Okay, and then
Adrian loves that.
like, like I worked with Doug last year on this, on the tours, and there was a pool of people interested in creating some tours and working towards that, but then there was never anything again. There's like, so I'll have to contact Doug and see kind of what's happening each year and how the tours are decided, like, like if I created a tour and would I have to audition it, and who would be the panel, and who would decide that, hey, that tour is good enough?
I think it'd be us.
Yeah, it's really, it's from what I've seen, it's pretty much just based on who's willing to do it, and
Yeah.
that you can like get a commitment and make,
Okay.
just get the pieces pulled together, which that in itself is hard to do, just.
It's not easy, no. I've been working on something for about a year and I'm getting
Yeah.
closer.
Yeah, the coordination of these types of things takes a surprising amount of time.
Yeah, it does, but then people step in and, like I did a class and not a lot of people came, a Windows class. Jay opened up the Grange and did a little tour there, so, we can
Oh,
kind of,
Jay's gotta be getting polished by now.
yeah.
He's like.
Well, there's probably more to show on the Grange.
The Grange is great, yeah.
I know that the city of Corvallis has also reached out to us already proactively, just kind of ensuring that we're still interested in working with them
Mhm.
for this historic preservation month, so
Yeah.
I think it's Sarah, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, Yike.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure
Definitely.
how we wanna, like, if we would, does it make sense to do like a joint HRC
Well, I'm
meeting?
on the city commission as well. I'm a city commissioner.
Are you? Okay.
So
On their.
Definitely
and every
doing a
year-
theme.
every year it's always kind of like, hey, we're involved, but it's the county's thing.
Okay,
And that's kind of how it's always worked,
okay,
but as much as the two could coordinate and
Yeah.
be involved, the
Okay.
better. And then there are some city historic awards that
Yeah.
are given, and that's kind of seems separate from the county. So
Yeah, like we
Yeah.
had some folks
But-
from Albany last year that would
Right.
help with the meetings and
Yeah.
the planning, and someone who worked in the city there. I
Right.
forgot who
but
that
for the
was.
month, yeah, as much coordination between the two would be
Yeah.
better.
Especially coming up with the theme. I mean, maybe we
Mm-hmm.
could come up with some ideas, but that would be nice to set the theme with,
together, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
everyone else.
So we had more than one joint meeting in preparation for
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, we had several.
Mhm.
So do you want me to start getting those set up like consecutively for February, March and April,
Probably,
if we can?
probably,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, please.
So by next time, we should have the name, ideas for the name at the next meeting, right? Is that the timeline? So
I
the
think that's
theme,
what we
sure.
did last year.
Some suggestions?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that would help.
so for next meeting's plan, we'll do another update on the driving tour. So our homework is to read what we did last year and maybe look at the offerings and see what we can do again. And then what more interesting things.
Yeah.
What to do, but we gotta come up with a theme to know
Mhm.
where to look, right?
And then just email Sarah Johnson, say the same thing, hey, think of some names if you can, city.
Okay,
We had some good ones. What did we decide last year? There were some other good ones that came around. I'll have to look at my notes. I don't know.
They're somewhere in the meeting notes from last
Yeah.
year.
That feels like years ago, last year.
That was a
All right,
century
so-
ago. Come on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so our homework let's kind of go, look at this and remind ourselves what we did.
Yeah.
I do have copies if you guys want them. Sure, we could just email the PDF.
I can email them to you. Yeah. I'll do that as a follow-up too.
I'll put these in my office at the store if you're in Philomath and you want a paper. I won't throw them out.
I'll also try to find the meeting minutes where you guys talked about and brainstormed ideas for,
Okay, I do have
That'd be
some
great.
of these yet too. All right. Okay, so we're gonna start working on that next month. And other homework is, yeah, dividing and conquering on this thing. That's our jobs.
would you be able to, anyone's recollection, would it have been like December, January, where you would have been thinking about kind of the content, the topics for titling of the 2024 event? Just ballpark.
February meeting minutes have discussion of 2024 historic preservation on the minute.
Well, look at that. Bob's already beat me to it.
Got it.
All right. Okay, so. Hmm. Got it. Alrighty. Thank you, Bob.
Awesome notes from the previous chair. All right, so. Anything else on, any other comments on historic preservation month programming?
Well, only
the-
that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Are we dropping the idea of doing other months? We talked about last year, not doing a blitzkrieg and doing,
Stretching it out.
stretching it out. We never did anything with it. Are we letting that idea go now? Or we want to find out how much money we have or?
I found a document in here called Calendar of Events that looks like we did do some amount of stretching it out, maybe not quite to the level that you had wanted. Let me see if I can
I
find
think it
it.
depends on our theme and we can,
A yearly seasonal history celebration lasting 47 days. We don't, it could be, wide open. We don't really need to. I mean, we could assign it to a certain amount of days and, if we need more than 30, we could make it to,
Well, it wasn't days so much. It was in line with the national heritage months. So like there's African American,
right.
all those
Yep.
things.
Right.
Yeah, and we could, we could highlight that too. So if it's Asian Awareness Month, Asian history, maybe we can find something related to that.
So I think just remember the challenge that we might run up into with extending it out is the funding issue, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's okay to call it a month. I mean, I think, and still have events that last on the fringes of it, like.
Yeah, I mean, nationally, it's the month, but we can,
Could
I
be
mean-
on the 40th day.
right, I mean, Gemma is running tours all the time.
Right.
So we can also just, Gemma's doing these tours, which you buy a ticket for, we can just promote it and put it on the calendar, and that's not us spending any money, that's them already, making that happen. And, she's coming up with ideas for more tours all the time, so maybe we can kind of collaborate, and say, hey, for our topic, maybe one of your tours can be related to whatever our theme is. That's someone else's for it.
yeah, it's,
That-
I guess just a scenario of reimbursement. If there's a reimbursement of any sort, that's when we would maybe run into a challenge, but.
The other thing that we discussed was from a marketing perspective, that we wanted to use May to launch into the rest of the season, of things that could be available, or even just those other those other celebrations for other cultures. So there was kind of a lot of grand thinking behind, let's do it the whole year. And a big piece of that was our communications, like where can we share this information consistently and things like that. So, but we don't really have the resources, including time, to sit down and craft that kind of a strategy, or we haven't had up until now. We haven't had the time or the subgroup to take it on. So that's another conversation that just kind of got dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it has to be as grandiose as what we've done for Preservation Month. It could just be sponsoring a speaker on African American heritage.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing something in that vein.
Mhm.
And as we build the budget for the next cycle, to Shannon's point, it's more line items where you can throw $250 and $250 and $250.
Mhm.
Pretty soon you have a $20,000 ask rather than a $16,000 ask. And you can work with that during the year to,
Yeah.
you know, do the things you want.
Well, the other thing that we did with Specters 2 years ago, well, the second and third seasons, is we did have public sponsors. We had businesses sponsor some of the costs. And so I think that's available to us. Again, it's just getting organized and making sure that our communication to the public is more consistent and not just during leading
Yeah.
up to and during Preservation Month.
Right.
Agreed.
All right, well, let's be thinking about some themes, review what we've done, think of who you know, what your interests are, who in the community. What was really popular. I know I'll go through the minutes too. Inga gave us a list of kind of how many people came to what event. And I wrote it down somewhere, so I will find that and see what was popular, and then perhaps we can, kind of tap into that again. If this covered bridge thing is happening, that might be a time to bring some covered bridge attention into the county to bring that bigger conversation. Maybe soften the blow of it moving. And that just popped up from the chat today. So, let's be thinking of some themes.
What if you, sorry, it's not really my place to give suggestions, but just had an idea. What about either like a biking tour, depending on the
I just
how
thought of that. Well,
car, biking
every-
and or driving tour
here's the thing,
using
every year,
content that we're
every year,
of the bridges, I was thinking.
the Kramer family does a Midge Kramer ride, and
Mhm.
it's not huge, but it's between and it honors him, and they wear flannel and jeans, and something that it could be called like the 70s ride, you
Mhm.
know, and we could tie that to the county now.
Yeah.
Make
The
it just larger,
1870s
you know?
ride.
So whatever, yeah. You know, just a way,
Yeah.
but yeah, a bike ride would be great except for liability. I mean, it would be a good idea. I mean,
Well, Albany does one every year, and Natty Dresser
Yeah.
does a tweed ride.
exactly.
The
that.
tweed, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think any way that we can brainstorm to integrate like another
I agree.
activity.
Yeah, that is a
Would be
different
great.
group
Yeah,
of people too,
Exactly,
right?
yeah. And you kind of integrate a different group of people to be
Yeah.
like, oh, that was really cool to
Right,
learn
and
about
the
those.
larger the crowd of the ride, then you get into traffic control and you know, you do crossing the
Yeah.
streets and somebody might get hit or something. It's just kind of, yeah, so there's all that, but it
Make
would
them,
be
we'll make
great.
them sign waivers, but.
It'd be great. I mean,
Yeah.
the way they close down the streets every year for that event's just fun. And, you know, so the larger we could make it, you know, it'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I can talk to an avid biker who loves to do that all around town and see maybe if we could wrangle her to help, like, put it together.
Yeah.
So,
You know?
again, just offerings that reach into all the different
Yeah.
corners of
It's
the.
just-
Yeah, a couple different
Right?
sectors
Just
or whatever.
active set, the
Even if
older
it's a
set.
smaller route, you know,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
through some
Yeah,
Mhm.
historic pockets.
Yeah.
you know, Back.
agreed.
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I like that. We love your suggestions. We want your suggestions.
This little calendar here has some notations on it, so of attendees, not all of them though, but
And it's just like your private file.
Masonic Temple got a lot of.
this is just something called
Oh, yeah,
calendar.
there's the people, there's the.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but not all of them have it noted, so,
Mhm.
so like Willamette Grange Historic
There were
Tourist.
more than one, because there were 5 people in my class and I was at the Grange,
Yeah,
so. But it wasn't very well attended.
but that's where I kind of wonder, like, what else can we build into that to make it to draw in
There could be
a
another
slightly
activity
different
at the
crowd.
Grange,
Yeah.
and we can talk to Jay about that too.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's so many popular events that just bring tons of people, like I went to the gardening swap thing and it was like anywhere, you know?
So, I say something? So when we did the, presentation demonstration of, assessment approaches for, to assess the condition of historical structures 2 years ago, Inga was like, well, we should have promoted this more among professionals, people in the conservation. So I'm thinking that besides this more public general audience events, we could organize some few events for like more specialized and for people in the sector. And this year I'm offering this class again, so I would be happy to with your help to find, because I think it will be more about advertising this among interested people. The ones that were there that were contractors and people in the sector, there were not many, but the ones that were there were like very interested. So if we can spread the word and do some recruiting efforts and maybe having more of this could be a sort of, I don't know if this could be in the future, like singing off the school at some point, but at least also showing that there is expertise available, that there are resources available, that experts or people that deal with this type of work may more easily find these resources.
Yeah. And also utilizing, the Oregon State students, people who are in the architecture department, wood sciences, because we're always trying to how can we reach in and have them be part of our community?
Yeah.
And if we focus some topics on some things that could go into some departments, I think we might get some youngsters, offer them extra credit, teacher.
So we can, I had potentially two sides, at least from the people that reach out to me, like that were interested in offering their case studies. And we can choose one that probably so far the one that is the most suitable to also host a sort of workshop seminar is the airport hangar in Albany like 2 years ago, because the other ones are more like tiny spaces, houses and stuff like that. And we can have a demonstration and then a sort of seminar of, workshop type of event. But again, that requires a different type of recruitment or advertisement. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of brings us back to.
No, I got a good one. It's gonna take a while, but I have.
I love that idea.
All based on public records.
Right. And guys, we have great ideas, but it's getting the word out, right? And who's going to do it? So I think we should put a work group together around marketing. And is there a way that we can leverage TikTok? Like Gemma is really good with social media. What if Gemma was talking about Historic Preservation Month along with her tours on her TikTok, for example? But if we could brainstorm at least together to have a
marketing
we
plan.
need to know, a plan. It doesn't have to be full on strategy or anything. It's like, who do we know who has access to people? And what kind of people? And how do you reach those people? So if we could just get one more than one, more than me, but a couple other people to get together for a work group and really just flesh out what is the best possible way for us to do this, to get the word out. Because the biggest issue that we've had every single year is getting the word about everything that we're doing and the importance of it and what is the context of why do we do this? What's in it for you? We haven't really addressed a lot of that with our public. Who we want to engage them because it's our citizenry that is going to help us preserve our historic resources.
Yeah.
And I'm even more passionate. I'm the chair now of the courthouse preservation committee. And I'm like, we have 2 years to figure out how to save that courthouse. It's a county
Yeah.
courthouse. It's
We
our
definitely need
thing.
tours of that and some conversation. I would definitely put that on the agenda somewhere. We need to bring people there and be talking about that.
I think that is a standard one that I did.
Please, you're bursting.
Well, no,
Feel it.
I don't have it developed yet, but it's got a lot of potential. The tour I'm developing is Harding Center. I've worked with Eric Wright already. I have quite a bit of
Oh, yeah.
information, and I'm gonna bring it up 31st Street. It's tied to development. It's tied to the fact that, you know, there were people that bought, from Avery's Homestead, there were people that speculated, and then there were developers, one in particular that bought up 31st Street. It was a new development for its time in 1925. It was a new fancy development for its time in 1925. What were the prices? A couple interior tours. It sold for this in 1962. It's sold for this in here's the history of its sales, including
All an assessment. Yeah.
now, and you take that tour to a history of Corvallis real estate.
Mhm.
Ding, 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 ding. I mean, I think that would get a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Just because real estate is kind of interesting right now to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
What I thought you were gonna go with, mine would dovetail off that.
Yeah.
But where I thought you were
What
going
do
with
you
that
think?
is, it's something that our department kind of did previously, but it's like a little different of a spin, but we were talking about trying to get more like niche kind of groups or
Mhm.
professionals. Doing a tour specifically for realtors and brokers and, aligned professions.
Oh, yeah.
Going to a couple of maybe like key sites, like 2 or 3 houses that are on the National Register and have been restored, and helping them just to be knowledgeable about what it takes to do XYZ so that they can
Mhm.
then help clientele,
Absolutely, you take a listing holding in a historic addendum.
Yeah.
You better know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think another idea, if either of you or any of you have heard of this, have you heard of Open House New York, Oni? It's obviously very different context, but Open House New York is this like huge, really, really cool event that happens every fall where property owners in New York City actually open their doors. It's
That's what
it's
I'm trying to get in mind.
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
trying
what-
to get
yeah.
agreements to have the house open.
right.
Yeah.
And so even if people aren't willing to open the doors of their house, still just allowing people on their property and just to like walk around the house is also still really cool. And you can still say like, just inside the door is, the kitchen, have a photo, whatever, so like
Yeah.
it doesn't, some people might not be comfortable with truly
Please
letting
don't
the
walk
public
in my
into the house.
bedroom, but yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's fine, but like we could have a version of that. And if it's like 3 properties, that would be totally
You
enough.
can look at a historic home from the outside, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You've never seen the historic wooden countertop.
Yeah.
And when you first do, it's something else.
Yeah.
You're inside.
Yeah.
You can feel that. So it's really cool.
Gardens are a big part of that too. Yeah, so a lot of people that have, lock and key gardens and really fancy.
Yeah,
Right.
First person.
Absolutely.
Same.
Absolutely.
Albany does a historic homes tour.
Do they? Nice, okay. Yeah, so
No.
we gotta do it here.
Okay, that's a great idea.
I mean, we really have kind of 7 of them almost. It's just that they don't go in the home. They're
Right.
done fairly well, neighborhood to neighborhood. No interiors are ever accessed. Only it was just one on one tour and somebody said, "Hey, you guys want to come in?"
Yeah, I was there, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was
You were there,
great.
Bob. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, we're never short on ideas, but.
Nope. Yeah.
It's how.
Adrian, bring us back.
How can we, yeah, so let's
Execute.
be thinking about it. Who do we know? Let's come up with some concrete ideas and then how do we market them and how do we get the word out? And I'm happy to talk to Gemma. She's super excited about what we're doing and I know she'll be cool to help us post on her socials,
Yeah, I think we should think about organizations too, to partner with the DCO, the Downtown Corvallis organization, even though it's Corvallis focused, would probably be very excited to partner with us as they're trying to get established and figure things out for themselves. They have some marketers on there, and then like the real estate agent that hires us every year to do cold cases for their customer base. They have a huge customer base that, I mean, our stuff sells out immediately for them. Guess what? We could probably work with agents based on the idea that was expressed about helping agents understand how to talk about and present historic homes. Get the real estate agents to help us by, participating with us, because they have lists of people who are incredibly loyal to them.
Yeah.
What's a cold case, Adrian? Do you describe?
We do murder mysteries, and for large groups, 80 or more, we create a 60 to 75-minute event where those people break up into teams and they solve a cold case, murder scene, or some other mystery on site.
So you need to find a set. You're saying you need to find sets for that.
No, we don't need to find sets. What I'm saying, the reason I use that is because when we work directly with this agent, our events are booked like immediately before they even start to market them. The purpose behind saying that.
Tell our own spheres? You mean just like tell our own spheres about it? Just kind of like, hey, market for you? Like, yeah, I mean, is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about engaging the real estate community here and helping us, because we want to help them. We want to help them talk about these historic homes. We want to give them a context that they can use to sell to their customer base, new, but also their continuing customer base, to have pride in this community, and then partner with the Historic Resources Commissions, both, to pull off these events big time, not just not the 2 here and 3 there.
Yeah, right.
Because igniting the citizenry is key to our preservation efforts. It's key.
Absolutely.
So we got to go where those citizens are already passionate about real estate and properties, and and I think of Lee and Tony, Lee Eckroff and Tony, and we should be partnering with them because those guys will help us get this message out in these events. So, sorry, that's my soapbox.
Okay, check.
But work group, if anybody's interested, if I could have 2 other people work with me, we'll get a marketing plan together. Is anybody interested?
I can help some.
I mean, we're open. I know Lee, we're town and country. I mean, just, yeah, as it develops and whatever we're talking about, just let's talk,
Yeah.
I mean,
And I'm certainly
I need help developing it. I've got ideas, but I need people to help me get it down on paper so we can share it with everybody.
Well, let's start getting some content of what events we want to do, and then we can start finding the channels to who to talk to from that. Let's go ahead and kind of wrap up the chat on this. Just noticing time. Anything else that we need to go over today on that? No? Okay. Let's, items from the public. All right, so items from the county commissioner.
I'm gonna make one note on this. I just found out last week that Nancy Wise is like that kind of position has been replaced by Gabe Shepherd, the new commissioner. So
oh
yeah, so I'll make
yay.
that.
I don't know Gabe.
Oh, he's great. He's a gamer. That's why I know him.
Oh, all right. Okay, well, that would be our item then, as we have any liaison, which would be great. Items from staff.
Do you have one?
Okay.
So this is something that's allocated in our budget for this continued 1.5 years. We have funding for an intern. specifically to work on GIS data files or basically a cleanup effort. There's very minimal information about kind of like what it is specifically that we need them to do, but so I'm kind of trying to piece some stuff together, but as
Probably
far
the
as I see,
course I started on a while ago, which was
Yes.
getting the fire.
yeah, so there's
There's
three different-
Disaster in there.
the fire
Oh, just the files.
file situation, yeah.
I just got to trying to collate, anyway.
Yeah, there's basically three different sources of data, as I see it,
Yeah.
that we have to make jive.
Yeah.
So it's jiving those sources of data and then mapping and then also noting, condition of structure. So that's the piece that makes me a little iffy, that I might want to chat with you all about. So we're specifically seeking a intern from OSU or Lynn Benton, CC, that has GIS skills so that they can help us with the actual database update. But I'm uncertain about requiring historic preservation skills, because when we did that last year, we actually didn't get any takers for this internship. So I'm trying to broaden it and make it a little bit just more generally like GIS focused.
Yeah.
And then like, if you have an interest in historic preservation, great, that'll give you like a one up.
Yeah.
But asking somebody without, well, basically it's like, what's the kind of grading matrix that we would use for assessing condition of a structure, because we have to be very clear in how we're asking that intern to make that assessment. And I don't, so it's, as far as an actual national resource goes, I think that's clear, but
I think there's a bulk of work to do with all that data. Before you even get to looking at the structure. So one, marrying all of these, structures together, getting their address right, getting, they want the for fire, pinpointed on Google, what are the coordinates?
Yeah.
So there's a ton of work, to get checking all those boxes before you even get to, is that building considered,
Is it habitable versus?
habitable, whatever the grade. We
Okay.
have to look that up, what that is, but.
Okay, yeah, so we're,
So that could be something we could help with if they get all the tech stuff done, because
Okay.
there's a lot of
What's
that.
the acronym? Sorry. J.
Yeah.
oh yeah, geographic information systems.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's mapping, but like on steroids. And it's basically one of the things that we have to, I think, as part of our CLG grant and as a certified local government, we're actually, my understanding, required to keep this kind of database up to date and given to SHPO. As part of our, just like, something that we are responsible for.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing where we're like, really need to get this done.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So yeah, so just for timing, that's, we'll be posting that, next month. What I pretty much did, and Maria Paula, I'll apologize to you because I don't think I reached out to you, and I probably should have. I just did kind of like a search on the OSU website for, specifically like GIS and adjacent, professors and colleges and schools and whatnot. I didn't really reach out so much this time to historic resources kind of professions because we didn't get any response from them last time. So, Maria Paula, if you think you have a student or students who would be interested in that type of internship and have the GIS background, I'm happy to send it to you, or if you know anyone else that I should include on that.
I mean, I don't among my students, but for sure there are a lot of students doing work with GIS in the other departments in the College of Forestry. So they do this in forest, and I don't know if they may be interested in applying it in urban settings, but definitely they learn about it. So I don't know. I can, if you have a description that I can forward to the colleagues who teach these classes, I can see if there is any student interest. But I will need a kind of written brief description of the type of work.
Yeah, and that's what I sent out already. I basically kind of did an early solicitation of.
When did you send it? Because I'm not sure.
I didn't include you on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was apologizing for, because I didn't I didn't
No worries.
get you on that.
Yeah, maybe send it to all of us to
Okay.
ask, and then, I mean, I'm thinking of some people that I could send it to also, like the historic preservation folks at University of Oregon,
Mhm.
that they ask them to post it on their board.
So the only issue with that is that we would have to pay them more to come up here. If they're located in Eugene, it's just gonna basically
Well,
make
they're
it
based in Auburn now.
okay.
But yeah.
I see. Well, even more expensive
Yeah.
in that scenario. So
That's true.
I'm trying to be very like, if we can get somebody in Corvallis, you know, at
Mhm.
OSU or LBCC, it's more cost effective. Because otherwise we have to pay.
There's gotta
for
be
the
someone
travel.
at OSU or.
Yeah, no, I have gotten a good hit. I've
Yeah.
already gotten some students reaching out to me. So I think we'll be okay for this time. I want to be inclusive and, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to like intentionally ignore anybody's interest if
Yeah,
there's
we
more
have
interest.
3,000 students.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Okay, well, yeah, maybe you don't need to send it around to us though, but definitely send it to Maria Paula.
Yep.
All right, moving on, items from the commissioners. Anything new you guys want to bring up?
Well, just
Super quick when Bob is done.
No, go ahead, Adrian.
I was just gonna say Specters is gonna be rewritten and released for May. We don't expect any budget because we're doing all kinds of cool stuff. I'm meeting with Jessica and Anya from the Historic Museum about turning it into a school curriculum. That happens
Cool.
on the 31st of this month, so I will be able to kind of give you more information on what that landscape looks like in terms of development, timeframes, all of that stuff, and how they want to be involved and what might or might not be needed.
Great, that's exciting.
It
And
is,
that's
it's
something,
very
you
exciting.
know, yeah, that we could promote also, but as part of our adjacent advertising. What do you have? Tom?
Yeah, just two quick things. Thompson's Mills, you know, Thompson's Mills.
Mhm.
So they do kind of a low-tech, ability to tour the facility. They use the same program that hotels are using now. Some of them, you can go on the site and they'll tour the rooms
Oh,
and
right.
stuff like a video thing. So if you go on Thompson Mills site, they've done that with the mill
Oh.
itself. So when we think about how we're gonna capture some of these historic places and stuff,
Mhm.
it's gotta be really not very expensive to do that, I would think. The other quick thing was the historical signs, the brochure and all that, the Oregon Travel Information Council. For those of you who don't know, Oregon State sponsors historic signs in the sense that they construct the sign, they erect the sign, they maintain the sign, but you gotta pay $8,000 up front for them to do that.
8,000?
8,000.
Oh, good.
And I mentioned when we were having an email exchange that I thought if we were gonna do it, it would be a county site. And make Fort Hoskin was my suggestion. I talked to Jesse. He's interested, but he doesn't know where he's gonna come up with $8,000. And I went to, they list one in Philomath at Mount Union Cemetery.
Oh, right, yeah.
If you go there, it's really underwhelming. There's not much, the sign itself doesn't look like $8,000.
No.
So for me, I don't think it's worthwhile, but that's their program, so.
I'll pitch an idea that may or may not be worth anything. Benton County, within our Public Works Department, like our Fleet and Facilities Department,
Right.
generates all those signs for the county.
Right.
Depending on what kind of sign I didn't follow what kind of sign you're trying to get made, but if it's a county site, I think there's a good chance that the county, like, Public Works Department would generate a sign like that at
But we want to
significantly lower cost.
the sign itself, the paperwork that you're seeing on their brochure, right? The, you know, getting listed at the state level, they're marked.
Yeah. So they do
Yeah.
this brochure. That lists all the historic signs throughout. And what struck me about it, I picked it up from Portland Airport.
Yeah.
Benton County had like 3 signs in there. I'm like, come on, what's the deal? Did they
So,
just
okay, so
didn't
historic
know?
markers.
and it's just, we haven't paid the till for those, but
Mhm.
there's another one in Philomath coming up, a school or something maybe, or another one's been approved. It hasn't been erected yet, I think.
I know the Letitia Carlson house, they're doing a sign there. So there's Mount Union, and then what's the other one?
Maybe.
Maybe the Muddy Creek. I don't know. I have to.
It's not important, but
So it sounds like the sign that you're describing is a very specific one that's recognizable.
these are large wooden signs,
I see.
treated lumber, a nice casing around them. The one about Union has a glass front, so
Gotcha.
you can change the display inside. It's a nice sign.
Mhm.
It's not $8,000 to me though. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe we'll hold that one loosely, but now we have a dollar amount. Thank you for finding out,
Sure.
what it takes to do
That
that.
is pricey.
Yeah, that's important. All right, anything else from the computer folks? All right, anyone want to move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, we are adjourned exactly at 7:59.
Great to go.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.